welcome everybody.
Hi.
We are going to do a tips and tricks discussion today. And it's so nice to see a couple of my students in there. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know I have about, I think 6 topics, and I sort of did the math because I'm a math person, that it comes to roughly about 20 minutes a topic. For those who know nothing about me, like maybe Rocco and maybe John,
Roberta.
you know a lot about me, Roberta. I have been, I started doing my O&M in 2019. That's when I started school, and I graduated in 2022. And what's interesting maybe is why I went to school, and that was because I have my own vision issues. And I wasn't quite ready for services, but I wanted to be ahead of the game in case I ever lost my vision. So I did go to O&M school with an intention of not necessarily being a teacher, but I wanted to actually know all the techniques. Since I'm a math major, I want to know all my options to know how I'm going to survive when my vision changes. So that's why I went to O&M school. And as I went to school, you learn all about the mechanics of safe travel and independent travel, but there are so many other components that you don't learn about. So my perspective of being an O&M teacher is that you're actually when you're in school, you're taught that you're the expert, but from my personal experience, an O&M is really a partner with your student, because you might know the safe mechanic, or I might know the safe mechanics, but I'm not the one who lives it every day. So I have a little bit of a different perspective on how O&M functions. So it was sort of nice to know that we had tips and tricks, because I thought this was a wonderful opportunity, as people have been asking me questions about how to do things, that I said, I'm not the expert in some of these categories. I might be related, but not an expert. And I'm really calling on you guys to be the experts on how you guys function out in the world. So that's a little bit about me. And Bob, I think, is here to support. He might also show some canes. Do you want to say anything?
No, I'm just here to participate with everybody else.
Okay.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, so when I get boring, start talking to Bob.
Just keep an eye for anyone in the waiting room that we have to admit.
Oh, okay. If anyone comes in the waiting room. Okay, yeah, I'll see it. All right. So I thought I'd maybe give you the topics of discussion that I have, or that I've developed some questions. So before we begin, actually, are the students in the room okay if we reveal your names?
Oh, Holly says absolutely.
Sure.
Of course.
It should be interesting.
Yes, absolutely.
And you're allowed to laugh.
We sort of already did with introductions.
Well, okay. All right. So the topics I have are I sort of ordered them in easiness to harder discussions, and it might be more interesting at the harder end. But and you're welcome to tell me, like, I don't want to talk about any of this, but my first set of questions are about how you manage yourself with your cane or your dog. My second set of questions have to do with walking within the community, just about how you walk and function. The next questions are related to public transportation and what's it like to be, the next section is about what's it like to be out in the community. Another section is about needing help from a stranger. And if we have enough time, or if you want to insert yourself further, Bob, we can talk about canes and cane tips and all that kind of stuff. So those are the topics I have. Are we all good with those topics?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, except for I really would like to add that I think it's important for us cane users that Bob have a chance to show the many different kinds of canes that he's collected, because who knew there would be that many canes out there in the world. So
Well, I actually decided not to bring those canes today. Because
okay.
Because that's something you really need to experience and have hands-on, and me describing the cane over Zoom isn't all that helpful for.
Well, I guess we'll just have to go on one of the walks.
Go
then.
on our O&M walks, and I usually will bring those things along and
There you go.
have them for people to check out.
Yeah,
Can
Go ahead, John.
Could you ask Sophia to take a look at the waiting room? Susan is sitting there and would like to get logged in, please.
Oh, thank you. I thought it would pop up on the screen. Is she in now? Let's see. Hi, Susan.
Yes.
Oh, she's beginning to log in.
Okay.
So mine pops up a little blue screen. This thing doesn't do that. It pops it up on the
Thank
side.
you very much. She's connected.
Hi, Susan.
Well, somebody has
Good
to.
morning.
Like,
Welcome.
Ross that joined?
No, it's okay. That's
Yes.
better.
Yes.
That way it doesn't. Yeah, it's Susan Glass. Hi, Susan. This is Tiffany.
Hey, good morning, Tiffany. Nice to
Very
hear you.
welcome.
Nice to hear everybody.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Morning.
So a lot of these questions that have come up for me, which is I'm really giving you guys the questions, have come up just from lessons and, you know, wondering what people do. So I'm gonna sort of keep track of time to get us to make sure that we don't fall too much off topic. And these, you know, hopefully these aren't just yes, no questions. Hopefully these are very questions that bring up a lot of thoughtfulness on how you handle yourself. So the first set of questions are really about how you manage yourself. And this came about when, if you're okay with me mentioning, Holly, that we were shopping at a Safeway and we were trying to figure out how we managed ourselves. So my question is, when you're out shopping as part of your daily living skills, where do you put your credit card and how do you use it at the ATM and what happens if you drop it?
Well, I put my credit card in a slot in my phone because my phone, well, one credit card is in my, two credit cards are in my phone case. And the rest of them are in my wallet inside the bag, that backpack or purse or whatever I'm carrying at the time. But my phone is the one I mostly use. And at that point, I'm going to bring up, because it is so useful. I learned it when I was getting one of my dogs at Guide Dogs, and is that, and people remember it. It always shocks me now when I've showed somebody this little trick and they remember next time when I go in to take, when we have to sign, if it's not in a machine, but we have to sign for it, if they will make a crease right where the line is, where they want us to sign, and then unfold the paper, that you have a built-in line that is so easy to follow. And then that way you can just, you know, you don't have to guess on, am I going up? Am I going down? You're just going right along that line. And it takes seconds to have that done. And they remember to do it next time, most of them. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that.
Yeah, thank you. What do other people do?
I wanted to add something because it's a brave new world. So the place where I get my haircut, they have my credit card on file. So all I have to do is tell them how much to put on it, and they send me a receipt of what they did into my email. But I don't even have to get my credit card out that way. Now, of course, you can't do this everywhere, but you know, I go there every 6 weeks, and so it's an ongoing thing, and I find it really helpful because I can buy shampoo there and other things. But it's magic.
Wow, so that means all I have to say is I'm Teresa McGinnis and get my haircut.
You try. Don't think I haven't left my mark there. They'll know who I am.
They're
They're gonna want to know where her dog is.
Anthony McGinnis said I could get a haircut.
Yeah, just it'll be very short. Gotta
Well,
watch
that's
them.
I do that as well at my bird vet. So that's an interesting way to handle it. What about like something like going to Safeway? Like
I usually have the person who's helping me shop. I've never dropped the card, but if I do drop the card, ask them to help me pick up the card. I have dropped money on the ground when they handed me change back, because I do use cash sometimes. Or I'll get cash, like I might need cash for something. So they've helped me pick up the cash. But it's always good to have that person who's helping you shop assist you, because you don't know if someone's going to cheat you or not hand you the right amount of money, or help you with the, put in the right bags of stuff in your cart. So that's how pretty much I do it.
One thing I want to bring up too is that has been so helpful for me is that when I get a new credit card, each card is marked differently. And we just, my family will do it so we don't get it, or friends or something, so we don't get it in the part that makes it not be able to come up on the machine. But like some of them are marked on the very top with a knife, and some of them are marked on each side. Some of them have 2 marks on each side. And I just remember which one has which. And that way I always know which card I'm grabbing. And that's been really helpful.
Definitely.
That's brilliant, Bevy.
Yeah.
We should probably say our names, by the way. I didn't do it either. Sorry.
Oh, well, I know your voice.
I know, but there are a lot of people. Okay.
This is Bob. I always, I think, ask the checkout clerk, would they please assist me? And I just hand them my card. And everybody
Did I lose you?
everybody's been super, super helpful. I've never had an issue with somebody, not
See,
being very courteous
this
and helpful.
being a city girl I would never release my credit card with numbers on it. And I would never ask the cashier to punch in my code. Some people have tactile feeling of being able to punch in your code. And so people are okay with it. And I know some people bypass using their debit card and use the credit card version so they don't have to punch in the code.
That's what I use as my.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is John, and I just wanted to mention that this won't be helpful for everyone on this call, but for those of you who do read some Braille, just about all of the credit card companies now will send you a Brailled credit card if you request it.
Oh,
Wow.
that's great.
I didn't know that.
Wow.
See, there's one more reason to learn Braille.
I think that MasterCard has a hotline too, where you can call and get a custom card that would be friendly, either large print, and I think they're also now trying to do tactile, but I think they have a large print version for MasterCard.
Was everyone able to hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you able to hear that? Okay.
You can get a large print card.
Yes, sure. MasterCard has their own hotline where they are trying to make it more accommodating for anyone who's experiencing low vision. I mean, vision loss, to be able to read their cards though. Wow. Now, from my experience, I have done a few different ways. My name is Roberto. One of the ways I've done it is I use like flat bump stops. So they're really flat, and I put them on my credit card, and I put them in certain angles or certain ways on my credit card, so I'll be able to identify it. That's what here and there I've done that. Lately, I've been doing Samsung Pay or Apple Pay, and I just use my face. You can have your eyes closed, and your iPhone will still be able to scan your face, and you'll be able to do that way as well. That's one way I've been doing it lately, and it's been working out. If you have an Apple Watch or a Samsung Watch, you can also do it that way, although it can kind of become a hassle because sometimes they'll ask for your PIN, and you're like, I don't want to use VoiceOver to type in my PIN. It kind of gets a little annoying, but it's just some options. I prefer the Apple Pay version on the phone where it just scans your face, or the Samsung version as well. They both work pretty good.
Roberto, will you explain, this is Bevy, will you explain the Apple credit card thing using it? I tried one time at Walgreens and I wasn't successful. I have Apple Pay, but I really don't know how to use the credit card part of it.
So not all credit cards will qualify, but let's just say it does. And first you would have to add your card to the Apple wallet.
Uh-huh.
Once it gets approved and your bank approves it, you'll be able to set that as default. And when you come up to the machine, to the, let's just say Safeway machine or, Nob Hill, you may have to move your phone in a little circle And eventually you'll learn the pattern of each store, which is what I had to do because each store is a little different. But the RFID chip might be in the bottom left corner of the machine or the bottom right corner of the machine. You just need to make sure that your phone is maybe 1.5 feet away from your face so that it can properly scan your face. Once it scans your face, it will be able to process that transaction.
So you just need to scan your face then, not the little credit card machine itself.
So
Simultaneous, right?
it's simultaneous and it sounds challenging at first, and it was challenging for me at first, but eventually I got the hang of it and now it's a really easy, smooth transition. Very easy.
Okay.
It does take a little bit of practice, to make sure that the phone is in the center and it's focused on your face. It doesn't have to be a perfect scan, but it works out pretty good for me.
I've used it a few times and I agree I had to get used to it, and it depends what type of stores you go, like Trader Joe's is pretty easy and Nob Hill's pretty easy, but I don't know about Safeway. I don't really shop there very often.
Does that also work with Touch ID or just Face ID?
Wait,
I-
you use Touch ID? Like, you mean as in?
I did the Touch ID. You have to put the phone near the credit card machine, and then you touch your phone with your finger.
It does work with your fingerprint too, or passcode, but passcode is a little hassle.
Yeah. I use fingerprint.
Just want to move the conversation along a little bit. Some of this came about because there's a couple of other questions I have for about managing yourself. It came about because it was raining one day. So the question is, how do you manage an umbrella or a rain jacket and have that affect your hearing as you travel independently? And then at the same time, you're trying to pull out your keys to open the door or you're trying to we were trying to exit a fence to get out to the community, and then at the same time drop that and then try to manage all that. Or another option was, you're at the grocery store, you've dropped you've pulled out your credit card, but in the process your keys flew out, and how do you find all of this? So that was sort of the big question on that. And then if anyone has any comments to that would be really helpful. And then we have one more question is, where on earth do you store your cane when you're at a restaurant? And how do you fold, you fold it, but where do you store it? Like, do you stick it under your table, under your seat, behind your whatever? And those are the two questions that I would like to get some feedback on before we move on to topic number 2.
Well, this is Bob. I want to put a plug in for Be My Eyes. I cannot tell you how many times they've come to my rescue in my wood shop and hi Rocco, by the way, glad you're with us here. How many times in my wood shop I've dropped tools or fasteners, nuts, bolts, screws, whatever, and or different parts. And I'll initially go down on my hands and knees and sweep the floor and try to find things. But then it's like, it's so much easier to just contact Be My Eyes. Boom, you have a volunteer instantly there, and they're looking through your camera and they'll say, oh, can you turn your camera this way, that way? Oh, it's 2 feet to your right. Put your hand out there. Yep, there you go. So Be My Eyes for picking up lost things, drop things.
That's a great idea, Bob. And the canes, I always get the cane. Well, I don't always, but the cane I prefer folds up so small that I can get it in my purse. And that's my most favorite cane to travel around. Although it's not my sturdiest, it's the easiest to travel with.
I have something I can say
What's that?
I have something I can say about the cane as well as lost things. So when I was out traveling once, I was at a market and I was at the checkout counter, and I happened to drop the money from my change. But luckily I had somebody next to me who was traveling with me, and they were able to find it. So I just kind of got lucky that time. But with the cane, normally if I were at a restaurant or something like that, I have a folding cane most times, so I would probably put it, like if there's a booth, I would usually just put it behind me. And that's kind of the reason I don't usually like the rigid canes, because they're kind of hard to store.
Yes. There's also some things that I just bought on Amazon too. I have one waiting to Holly next time I see her. And the round part of it fits on top of the table, and then the underneath it, I mean, then it has a thing that it folds out, and there's a hook that goes underneath. And on that hook, you can take and put your cane, or you can put your purse, or both.
Or both.
I'm excited. Thank you, Beverly.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Perla. I'm on Zoom.
Hi, Perla.
Hey, okay. A lot of times I've just fold up my cane and put it under one of my legs on the
I've
chair.
done that too. Yeah.
It's just easy, and then I know where it is.
I actually
And
loop my cane, you know, the between the cane and the string. I just loop my cane over my feet, my shoe, and there you go.
You're good at the shred.
No,
I
this is
used
why
to
it's
do
so
that
easy to
with
do.
Alicia, my dog, when I had the guide dogs.
Remind me
This
to
is
do the
John.
other part to the
I
beard.
I just wanted to say real quickly that under no circumstances do you want to put your cane on the table.
right.
People consider a lot of people consider that to be really unsanitary. And I was with a group of people one time, and we basically almost got asked to leave a restaurant because somebody put their cane on the table.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
do not put your cane on the table. Put it on the floor at your feet, or behind you on the booth, or wherever you can, but not the table.
Yeah, it's
This
easier to
is
do.
this is
Wow.
this is Susan, and I usually just fold I do like folding canes for that reason. I usually just fold it, put it in my lap or under my legs so I can do a check as I'm leaving. And when I
Right.
have Omni with me and we detach the harness handle, if I'm by myself, I'm just on my own vigilant memory. But if John's there, I say, do not let me go out without this handle, which I couldn't anyway. I couldn't guide, but you always want to build. That would not be a cool thing to do. On a humorous note, I have two folding canes. One is very lightweight; it's an ID cane, but the
Yeah.
other one is really heavy because once when I was at the stable with the ID cane, my horse bolted and broke the cane into pieces, and I had and so I had to navigate home with a riding crop, which was very funny. So I have learned that you have the barn cane and then you have the normal cane, and that works great.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I want to move this conversation along a little bit. I do want to get one response, anybody, about how they manage when they're walking in the community and it's raining. Are they using an umbrella and a cane? Are they using a jacket and a cane?
I'd like to answer that. This is Patrice, because I used to do it all the time when I was taking the bus to go to work up at UCSC, and I had a long walk from the bus stop to the music department. You know, you really need to get a poncho with a hood, so you can still hear and deal with it that way. And my dog had a raincoat as well. You know, her poor little head was sopping wet, but everything else was okay. And that way you can hear, you can it's just smart. And one other thing, keys, change, all this stuff. Think about it before you leave the house. Don't just shove stuff in your pockets.
Yeah.
I speak from experience.
So Patrice, I do have a question about that. When you are wearing your poncho and sound is not coming from behind you because your ears are being blocked, what are you doing about that? Are you occasionally dropping your poncho, your hood down, or are you hoping?
No, I make sure the poncho isn't covering my ears tightly. I make sure I push on either side of the ear so it's out. So it's covering the main part of my head, but I make sure my ears are clear. Does that make sense?
It
That
does.
the fabric isn't near my ears. So because I do need to hear,
Poncho
obviously.
is like a jacket that you throw over a jacket, but you don't stick your arms in it. It's like a blanket with a hat.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So it's just something you wear over everything. And it's easy to get a rain poncho. I mean, they're anywhere, and that one size fits all, hopefully. And because they're loose, yes, the wind may blow the hood off, but you know, it's not easy out there in the world. But otherwise, I want it loose. I want to be able to hear. So that was my scene, Tiffany.
I
Yeah,
kind of do,
I have never even tried to use an umbrella. That just doesn't seem safe to me. And it seems way too cumbersome. And so I'm like Patty, I use a hood of some sort. And when I think maybe, did I hear something? I'll throw the hood off for a second,
Sure.
make sure I hear it
Yeah.
or don't. And then, so I can put it back off and on when I need to.
And this is Holly, something that's been helping me is I wear a visor which blocks overhead glare, because I have a bit of vision left and light sensitive, but or I wear a hat which has a wide brim in front, and then where the hood sits on top of my head, and I have a little like a little awning over my face from the hat brim.
That's a great idea.
That keeps rain off. And also, it also seems to help my ears be a little more open. I'm not quite, it's worked well. And as I've been shopping for a new jacket, I'm crinkling the material because I've noticed, as Tiffany and I have been working, how important our hearing is. And crinkly materials as I walk, they distract my ears. So it's soft and that I could wad up and put in a backpack and won't wrinkle. So that's how I'm shopping for a jacket right now, actually.
We have Roberta with something. Did you want to say?
In regards to, I basically do what Patricia said, and Bev, and including I don't wear a poncho, but I do wear jackets, rain jackets, with big hoods and this and that. But I also make sure that they have either zipper pockets, button pockets, or inner pockets within the jacket, so that this way, you can put keys here, earbuds this way, or you wear smart you have doorbells, what do you call it, door locks to open up with your phone.
I do that too, Roberto. I have ones with pockets in them.
Yeah, that's what I do to make sure I don't drop stuff.
This is Bob, and as many of you know, every time you see me, I'm always wearing a fishing vest. So it's got all the multi-pockets in it, and everything goes in its own pocket, so I always know where everything is. I to kind of touch base with Susan's idea there, I always carry a spare cane. So in my vest, in the back of my vest, I have a telescopic cane, so that if I'm ever separated from my regular cane, I've got a cane on me at all times. The other thing on my vest, there's a snap loop on the front. It's meant for putting your fishing pole through, so you can let go, hands-free, let go of your fishing pole and work on your fishing line. And that's perfect for holding my cane.
That would be
while
great.
Shopping.
Brilliant.
Oh, that's interesting, Holly. We could sew on a what do you call those things? Those carabiners or whatever you call them, they're little C-shaped things with a push, and that's an interesting thing. Because I was wondering about that because we have issues where not everybody's cane goes above their high enough so that every once in a while every time they take off their jacket, the cane falls. So that's a wonderful idea.
The nice thing that I just thought about with that carabiner that you're talking about, you could slip that through just your buttonhole on your jacket or your sweater or your shirt or whatever.
I think he just started swearing at me. He just told me to slip it through my buttonhole.
And then you have your cane right there, and your carabiner, you don't have to worry about what you're gonna hook it to. It's just right there. That's a great idea.
No, you started it. So
well, you said carabiners.
Well, so I want to switch topics just because we've got more to go on, and I hope you wait like another year or so. Bob and I will invent the white cane umbrella combo. Okay, moving on to a new topic if we're ready. Walking in the community, I have some questions for people. We could probably go over this lightly. And I was just curious, how many people are keeping track of their cardinal directions while they're traveling?
Not me.
Roberto raised his hand. Anybody else?
Susan, I do it, and I started doing it when I started to use the GPS systems such as Voice Vista and Good Maps Outdoors, and I have hearing aids, so I have it's Bluetooth to my ears, and so not only am I getting the cardinal directions, but I'm hearing where things are coming from, and it's been very good for me because I was never terribly good at it before. Now I don't think I'm good enough yet that if you said, okay, head south here, head east here, but I could probably do it. I would just take time. But I have found I am it's much easier to navigate now. And I find that when I am wearing a GPS system like that, I'm focusing completely on my dog, but I will take more chances. I will explore more because I know I don't have to remember every blasted little direction. And that's nice.
That's what, do you use spatial? I'm wondering with Roberto, so I come from a long line of genetics that does not update as I turn. And I get left and right mixed up. It used to be Soundscape. It was the old Soundscape voice.
That's right. Now it's Voice Vista.
Just to let you know.
And I
Bob.
do use it. I do
and
use
that
it.
does give you
Good to
audio.
know.
You wear headphones.
It does. You can either have headphones or in my case, I have it Bluetooth to my hearing aids, which is absolutely fabulous. I'm the same way, Tiffany. If you, I mean, I can remember a few directions, 4 or 5, but if I've got a really long route, I just, you know, that's hard. So it's really nice to have that extra feedback.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Susan.
I
That's
used to
good.
have a compass, and my O&M instructor and I would use it when I was in school. It did break eventually. Unfortunately, it was a really great compass, and they're not very common anymore. Unfortunately,
there
they
are
were
on your
discontinued a
iPhone,
long
and
time ago.
there are different apps. If you have an iPhone, I'm not sure about the Android, but on the iPhone, there's a couple of apps that are really straightforward. The one that's built in is sort of complex, but there are apps. It's sort of terrible because the name of it's called Compass, so it's hard to find. But it sort of gives you your primary 4 or your primary 8. So north, south, east, west, and northeast. It doesn't do that northeast, east, and the east, northeast, and it doesn't do the 122 degrees. It doesn't give you all that kind of stuff. But some people, I think, naturally update because it's in their genetics. Our friend Stacy, who used to be here, I could drive around in circles and I could twist and turn anywhere, and she would always know where we were. It drove me insane. But so I'm curious, Roberto, I think Roberto has a lot of experience with that, and it looks like he's got something boiling out of him. So
No, the only thing I was going to add, the way I keep it, so, you know, for example, I know I'm a little nerd here, but, you know, I would ask, and sometimes I would say, the news will say which way the wind is blowing. So if you feel the breeze blowing east to west, west to north, you know, something like that, then you know which way you're going, if you're going towards the wind, with the wind, or away from the wind. The other way is the sunlight, depending on how the sun is beaming towards you, you know, you feel that heat wave, you know, coming towards you or behind you, and that also tells you which way more or less you're going. And yes, it does. Sometimes I will get lost in a parking lot. Like yesterday, I was just kind of spinning a little circles, dancing, but you know, it happens. It will always happen because you feel a little breeze coming from who knows which way directions in between the cracks of the buildings. And you feel that breeze, so that kind of throws you off a little bit, and then you feel the sunlight, but then it's cloudy. So here and there, you all get mixed up. The GPS does help. However, you know, it's still just walk around and you'll find out.
So that's interesting, Roberto, that you mentioned wind and sun. And I find the sun and the compass challenging because you have to know the time and what part of the equator is. And if you get left and right mixed up, like east and west, and then you forget if you turn clockwise and it's never eat soggy waffles. But then if you turn the other way, then you have to recount. So some people just have an internal. I have a friend who says, you know, the bridge doesn't move, Tiffany. And I'm like, yeah, but if I walk into a building and spin, the bridge just moved.
That happens to me too, Tiffany. But John Glass has a built-in compass.
Yeah.
It happens to me too. I get it.
And just real quickly for those of you with Victor readers, I just took advantage of the note taker and wrote or did a verbal note on Susan's Voice Vista, so I could remember to look at it.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Bob, that's neat about those if you put them in your earbuds, so if it asks you to turn right, it'll ring in your right ear.
It really helps out.
It will, it's directionally, audibly, it's not just turn right, it actually will go bing, bing, bing from your right channel versus your left channel.
No, I like it that it guides me to bus stops.
Oh,
you passed the bus stop. Beep, beep.
So from an O&M perspective, from what I've learned in school, so it's sort of what Roberto is talking about, like when you're free walking down a sidewalk, You can tell there's a line of buildings, you might hear an echo, you might notice that you're on the shady side, and all of a sudden you get towards an intersection and you have a different gust of wind and you have a different set of sun, different traffic noises, and those are the things that we pay attention to. It sounds like it's already built into Roberto. Right?
I think it's built into most of us.
Yeah. Or just something to pay attention to that not everybody pays attention to, that you
Yeah.
might notice a slope going down, or you might notice that the wind is now going left and right, as opposed to front and back,
Well, on our O&M walk last week, we were walking out in the open, in one area we went through a whole grove of trees that really kind of tunneled over the trail. And Tiffany came up beside me and she was asking, because I was leading, and she was saying, what do I sense and how do I know where I'm going? And I actually sensed a pressure change when I entered into that group of trees, because it was so close. I don't know if anybody else experiences that, but you can just feel, or you just sense that change in pressure as you.
Do you ever feel it on your cheeks?
Yes.
That's exactly where I feel on my cheeks. Like you feel that the wind just kind of dropping, and yeah, something like that.
It's also I learned in mobility school that it's facial vision, and so it is a feeling and it's a sound.
It's
Yeah.
combination that all works together somehow, and I don't know how, but
Yeah.
One of the challenges when we're masking is that our facial vision is a little bit impaired, or can be. That said, I love, and that's when we draw another.
We're having sound problems, Susan.
Okay.
We weren't able to hear that.
I felt myself cut. I said that when we are wearing masks, it sometimes interferes with the facial vision, and you have to draw on other
Absolutely.
things a little bit. Yeah.
I hate masks.
I mean, yes, I believe fervently in the masks. I'm just saying that's yeah. Well, I don't hate them because they're saving us, and they're keeping their.
How does the spatial vision thing work?
What? That was Roberto asking, how does this facial vision thing work?
Rocco.
Or Rocco, I'm sorry.
Does anyone want to respond to how facial vision works?
I don't feel like it's the hairs on my face. I really don't know.
Yeah, Rocco, that's a good one. I again don't know how to explain it. It's just a sensation that I feel when I'm passing an object, or I'm moving
like cabinet doors. That one.
Yeah.
I think I think for me, maybe I could explain it as say I'm walking down the street and I hear equally on both sides an open feeling. And then I walk a little further and maybe there's a house or a bank, a building on my left. Now I only hear that open feeling on the right, and I don't hear that open feeling on the left. It got thudded.
Yeah, I sense that it has a lot to do with hearing. That's my general sense, that it is this. One time I went out with Len, for those who know him, and I said, I want to know what the heck you're doing, because I'm worried about how I'm going to figure this out. And for some reason, in his presence, when we were walking down to a corner, he just said, "Do you hear it?" And he said it right when the street turned into an intersection. I'm like, yes, I do hear it. And what he was talking about wasn't the cars. He was talking about the openness of the intersection. Yes. I'm like, yeah, I do hear it. And the sad thing about it is, ever since he taught me that, is I hear so many echoes all the time. It drives me crazy. But your brain sort of, especially if you have sight going on, your brain sort of just, says, I have too much information, not interested in that one. But I think when you have opportunities to you know, to experience other parts of your brain starts to sense these things like, wow, the sound changed just suddenly, and it doesn't take that much.
Tiffany, I'm wondering if, because you hear that echo all the time, if you're able to do echolocation.
You know, it's really funny because I'm not trained well enough, but actually the funny thing was Carlisle's the one who taught me because he used to hear gunshots a lot out in Stockton. And so what I would hear as we would train in the mobile home, I taught him to O&M me in my own mobile home park, right? So what I used to notice, like we'd hear something and I'm like, oh, the car's coming from the left. And he's like, well, no, it's ricocheting in the mobile home park. And he's like, if you think about the ricochet, did that ricochet fast or did it ricochet slow? And I'm like, oh, so it's really like the wall's really close to me then. You know, and it took me a long time to sort of develop that. And then you start, I mean, but it takes training. Like, I mean, I think what's his name? Like Daniel Knitsch or whatever. I think, you know, I don't know if you guys remember Kevin Andrews. He could snap his tongue until he found a bush or a car and he could tell me
Well,
where to
I
fall.
was just gonna say, John Glass and I were just talking.
Huh? I think her sound went out.
Maybe we lost you.
I can see
We
she's
lost
drowning.
him?
There you are.
Shoot.
You can talk. Say something, Bev.
I was, well, he was young now then. Eric Smiley, he was born blind, so from birth, and so obviously, anyways, that he got along. He even rode bikes. He was an amazing kid, and I love his mother for the freedom that. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. The doctors called. That was my grandson. He would use that like that all the time with his tongue, and that's how he got information from what was around him. And watching the movie Ray Charles, he always wore the hard soled shoes, and so he could get that sound from his shoes and how close he was to a wall or anything.
Right.
Wow.
Makes sense. Tap dancing like Gregory Hines.
Yeah.
Quick question before we move off of this topic. As a mobility instructor, I find it challenging to get folks to either free walk and to stop trailing all day long. So I'm just curious for those who are walking on the sidewalks all the time. Are you guys all trailers or free walkers, or do you trail just when you're at an intersection? Anyone have feedback about that? And can anyone describe the pros and cons to either trailing all day long or free walking all day long?
Hi, this is Elizabeth. I really think that if you're familiar with the area, you should just free walk, because when you're in an area and you're not sure where you're at, you know, it's better to guide your cane on the edge of the curve so you don't get unfamiliar with your surroundings. But I think it's good to also free walk, because then you're you know, using your skills, and you always shouldn't guide with your cane. I mean, it might not be safe, and I think it's also easier to trail when you're, you know, lost or not sure where you're at, because sometimes, you know, you'll get your you'll navigate and remember, oh yeah, I have to cross here, I have to turn here.
Right, so trailing's usually good for finding things. Roberto or anybody?
Trailing is when you're like following like the grass, right?
Yeah, like when you're following a grass line or a curb line, or you're following the line that's on the curb or on the sidewalk that's grooved
Or you
in.
live in a mobile home park.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was your question? I forgot.
So just how people, I know you don't trail. I know we have lots of trailers. I think a lot of people get a sense of comfort when they're trailing, because you always know where you are. And so I think it's really difficult to free walk, which is just, I'm going to walk down this block and make sure I don't
come off the block, and then I'll only trail when I'm looking for something. So I know I've seen you walk.
Yeah, so most of the time, yeah, I guess I'd say 50% free walk, 50% trail. Because yesterday I was trailing, and I was trailing because I was going on Dominican Way, and there's no sidewalks. So I was literally on
Right.
the street, just following the side of
I will trail typically when I'm looking for a path, especially when there might be like several different paths and you could miss one.
Yeah.
I don't usually do it when I need to find when I'm like just walking along, and it's like a pretty simple route. But if I'm doing a more complicated route where there might be some more twists and turns and places like that, then I tend to do it more.
I'm the same way. When I lived on the west side Santa Cruz, all the streets were straight, well, most of them. And I always, what you're calling free walking. Now that I live in a mobile home park and up in Scotts Valley, now I have to trail because otherwise as Tiffany tells me, I'm a straight walker and these streets curve. So it doesn't work out very well. So
Also, when there's construction, you're like,
Oh, that's a mess.
exactly.
This is John. I think
There you are.
I think one of the things that trailing really does for us is it gives us reassurance that we're staying on the right path, you know, that we're not veering off and going someplace that we shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Well, with me, I took mobility up at the Chase Center up in Albany back in the 70s. And up there, when you lead a trip, well, if you're in a car with somebody, they teach you what road it is by the bumps in the road. Like especially around here. But anywhere, like Albany Hill, you go straight up so you know where you were. You know, if you're on Solano, it was bricks in the street, like down in the mall, or if you're walking on a narrow sidewalk, you take your cane and you put it over the curb and you walk, so you kind of tap it. And I don't have a wheel on the cane. I don't believe in those. I think the canes are made to tap, so you tap one side or the other, you can not only hear where you are, but you can feel the sidewalk too, what it is, you know, that kind of thing. And I was up there for 6 months. And the first thing they would do, they put if you had a little bit of sight, they put a blindfold on, which that was kind of rough. And they teach you around, you know, the building and around, you know, where you are, you know. And sometimes they put you in the car and they say, okay, where are you? You know, and basically what it is you get to the point where you can feel the road when someone's driving a car and you're sitting, you're a passenger. Like if you feel a dip in the road or a certain kind of bend in the road, that kind of thing. That's the other thing they taught you, you know, if you know kind of where you were. And another thing they would do, well, with me, is that you tap your cane, and basically those days the canes had metal tips on them. So every time you tap your cane, you hear an echo. And especially if you come to a wall and something like that, you can feel the dampness off of it. You can feel it cold. All of a sudden the air changes, you know, that kind of thing. So that's how I learned to get around up there. And when I came down here, I didn't use a cane for I rode a bicycle. You know, I'd go on bike rides and 100-mile rides and all that, like I brought one or whatever.
Tiffany, can I mention some of the canes that John kind of brought up? So this is Bob, and I primarily use a folding cane with a roller tip on the end, marshmallow type rolling tip. But I will say I have a solid NFB cane with the metal glide tip on the end. And I prefer using that one. I get so much better feedback into my hand and my body of knowing, like John was saying, you're tapping, you got that metal tip and you're tapping along and you just get I don't know how to describe it. You just get a much better picture in your mind as far as
Interesting.
where you are and what's around you because of that metal tapping. I tend to not use that because I like the convenience of the folding cane, but I do get so much better feedback from the rigid cane with the.
Well, the folding canes, like I got a pencil tip on this one. And so I can still tap it in here. And you don't, there's one thing you don't want to do. When you use a cane, you always try to make it swing in front of you. So like one leg goes out and your cane's there to protect you. Your left leg or right leg, whatever it goes out, you have your cane there to protect you. If you don't do that, you're gonna learn the hard way. The worst thing you can hit is a fire hydrant.
So let
Oh,
me move
man,
on. Thank
those things
you.
will take you out.
They do.
Thank you. Let me, so I now know we have two metal tip prefer people. Let's move on to our next topic. I'm afraid this one's gonna eat up the other topics, but I thought public transportation might be an interesting conversation. Holly, if I can call upon you, she and I experimented with some of the features of using an Uber, and today Bob just used Lyft with Ira. And then we have buses, which I have two expert bus people, which is Roberto and Elizabeth. Anyone want to start on their transportation experience?
This is how I speak to Uber, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very grateful that I've done some Ubering now with Tiff's help. And I found that the app is quite accessible with VoiceOver on my iPhone. I was able to set it up myself and attach my credit card. So that's just been very, very easy. And I think we've done 3 trips, and I really liked I like the idea of having it as a tool in my toolbox should I need a ride quickly. And don't have time to take a bus. And of course, Metro Paracruz needs to be booked the day before. And so this just made a lot of sense to me to have that freedom of an almost immediate ride within 5, 10, 20 minutes, normally I would say. And so I would encourage that. And it's not been all that expensive, actually. And they've been sending coupons for Uber Eats. They want to order food from restaurants, and they'll deliver it, and they've given a great discount. We haven't done that yet, but we might someday. So they're
You know, I'd like again oh my God, John to jump in on this one, John Glass, because him and I have talked about taking only once have I taken Uber, and that was with Patrice. We went out to dinner and we had a family member take us, but we took Uber home. And home is fine because I know how to get out of the car and in my house. But my concerns are getting here I just take the Uber and now I'm in front of the doctor's office, and now what do I do? Because I don't know where the door is. I don't know where anything is. So John, can you kind of speak to this?
Sure. So what I find, I've been using Lyft since 2016, and I was just looking in the app the other day, and I've had over 550 rides. So I guess I've used it a fair amount. And I will honestly say that my experiences have really been very positive. And when I'm in a situation where, as Bevy just said, let's say I'm going to a doctor's office and I'm not really sure exactly where to go, once I get out of the vehicle, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll ask the driver if they would give me assistance to the front door. Now, they may not walk me all the way to the doctor's office if there are multiple offices in the building, but they usually are happy to get me to the front door. And I've had drivers actually walk in with me and help me find either the elevator or the specific door to the office where I was going. What I have found is that if the driver gives a little bit of resistance, like, oh gosh, if I can tell that they're not real comfortable helping me find the door, I will just say something like, I really appreciate your help, and I'll leave you a nice tip on the app. And the old saying of money talks, that usually gets their attention. And I've never had a driver flat out refuse to help me find a door.
Well, if I could follow up on that, I had a great Lyft experience today with Ira. I specifically wanted to use Ira. So for those who have Ira, you can link your Lyft account to your Ira account. So I was at home. I called up an Ira agent and said, could you please arrange a Lyft for me? And they said, where would you like to go? Do you have the address of where you would like to go? And I said, I'd like to go to the Vista Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired in Santa Cruz. They looked it up on their system. Oh, yeah, here it is. It's at 30 whatever B Mission Street. Oh, yep, that's where I want to go. They told me how long the wait was going to be, and basically walked you like right through the app and said, do you want this kind of car or that kind of car? And so we just the agent booked the ride for me, and once it was confirmed, then the agent came back and says, okay, we have a driver coming. His name is Larry. He's driving a red Volkswagen, I forget the model, and he said, here's the license number, and I'd be happy to stay on the line with you until the driver arrives and I can confirm that it's the correct vehicle and the correct driver, because they're using my camera. And I declined that. I said, no, I'm okay to take it from here. But they certainly would have got me into the vehicle and made sure I got into the right vehicle with the right driver. And then likewise at the destination, he did say, when you arrive, if you need any assistance, please call us back, and we'll know where you are because of the GPS tracking, and we can guide you once you get there. My driver today, when we pulled up, said, would you like assistance to get to the front door? And I said, well, are we right next to the steps? And he said, yes. And I said, oh, I can take it from here. So Lyft with Ira was great.
So how do you get hooked up with Lyft, and is it just like Uber?
Yes, Lyft and Uber are the same. In fact, a friend of mine who uses both of them frequently says you should check them both out because their rates can vary dramatically between the two. Now, I don't have any personal experience with that, but evidently you could shop around and get better prices one versus the other. And it changes on the same, you can go to the same place multiple times, and different times Lyft is cheaper or Uber is cheaper.
I wanted to bring up, so this is Tiffany, I want to bring up two things about Lyft and Uber. I don't have as much experience with Lyft, but I wanted to mention something that Holly and I experienced. So Holly has it set so that she has confirmation. So when the driver comes up, the person will actually ask for Holly, and then she has to provide a PIN that she gets from her app. And so once he gets that PIN, he can drive off. Without that PIN, he can't drive. So with Uber, there's a sort of an automatic, the way Holly has it set up, it's set up so that it automatically verifies that she's the person. Because I think I told the earlier today that it's been known that VTA in San Jose picks up the wrong Vietnamese person, and neither of them speaks their own language. But if they just have the numbers to verify, that would help.
One of the things with Lyft, and I didn't pursue these features, the agent asked, do you want to enable safety features? And I should have asked him what the safety features were. The one that he did mention is that, would you like to share this ride, meaning the information of where I am and GPS location and all that with someone, and they would have sent that information on to anybody that I wanted, so that person could then track me and know where I was.
Oh, that's cool.
And Holly has the experience of, she has two people following her. She enacts her safety as well. Holly, do you want to speak to any of that? I don't want to be speaking for you.
You're right on there, Tiff. And I really like those safety features, and so does my husband. So when I start my ride, then he and one of our daughters tracks me, and they can see exactly where I am. They also, on Uber, they have this little safety toolkit, and you can check mark the different things you might like. Another thing is enabling recording of the conversation in the car. should there be a need. And I'm not sure I would do that because then I might lose my voiceover abilities. I haven't used that yet, but it feels really, excuse me, good to be able to have people see where I am.
Well, you also might need that if they refuse a ride, because some drivers, they'll refuse a ride if you're blind. They see you have a cane or a guide dog.
Mm-hmm. And on that recording, if I do ever need to record a conversation on the ride, it stays encrypted or something and only is used if I file a complaint, and that is both for the driver can do the same thing against someone who's riding. So I thought that was interesting safety feature. I'm excited about Lyft. That's very cool, Bob. Thank you.
I hope you guys.
And also, you can save your rides with IRA. Like, next time you want to go to Vista Center, you don't need the address. They already have it in your account.
Yes.
I took a ride.
Oh yeah, I was just I'm gonna step out a little bit. So I was just gonna mention, yes, I've also used Uber and Lyft, and it is true. The rates do change here and there. It's quite frequently that happens. And as far as like for me, it used to be a problem. The whole when you couldn't understand some people's accents, you would have a hard time. But luckily, that new PIN has been helping me out a little bit, especially with also like DoorDash deliveries and Uber Eats deliveries. Has been helping out with that as well. As far as public transportation, honestly, with Google Maps, they have updated their Google Maps, and so now Google Maps tells you live when the bus is coming, and so now you're able to know exactly if you know how long it's going to take you to get to that bus stop. Then and it says, okay, in 11 minutes the bus will be there. It literally means in 11 minutes.
Wow.
It hasn't failed me quite yet, and this has been about 4 months of me doing this, but it's been on top of the bus schedule here in Santa Cruz. So just so you guys know, bus is free, easy to get on, and the schedule is on point with Google Maps. Apple Maps, it's still not there yet. They still need to work on, I don't know, the coding and all that, but that's my experience with public transportation. It's been phenomenal.
Thanks.
So Roberto, do you use the SCM and the bus number to figure out where the bus is?
No, I just asked. So I just on whether on an iPhone or an Android, you can install Google Assistant, and that's what I have installed. And so on the Google Assistant on my iPhone, I will ask it transit directions to Vista Center for the Blind. And so what it does is from my house in Watsonville, it will say, okay, from this stop in 11 minutes, the bus will be there. Catch this route. And so you just, okay, it takes me about 6 minutes. And as you're walking to the bus stop, let's just say you're 2 minutes away and you ask your Google Assistant again, hey, transit directions to Vista Center for the Blind. And it may say, oh, bus is late. It'll be there in about 5 minutes. There you go. Now you don't have to sit there and worry, did I miss the bus? Because that was one of the biggest problems for me is not knowing if I missed a bus. Oh, I missed a bus, time to catch a Lyft. And, there goes another $20 or so. But no, now it's been more aligned with the schedule. So you don't have to second think second thought, did I miss that bus? That was the biggest problem for me. But it's been helping out. So,
Really good
I
information.
have a question.
Somebody have a question? Go ahead, Rocco.
So, do you have any tips for people who might be living in rural areas where they might have to rely on a family member for driving them to places?
Rocco, what county are you in?
Monterey.
Monterey has a fantastic program. I don't always remember the details, but if you're in a really, really rural area like the North Park, far away from Salinas, they even have a program that you can sign up for and they will pay back a certain mileage. So if you have a relative drive somewhere, and if they keep track of the mileage, you can turn it in and they will reimburse you, but you have to check to see if you qualify. So if you want afterwards, I can give you a call and we can talk about the details. But Monterey MST is a fantastic program for a lot. I mean, if paratransit can't come to you, you're eligible. So I don't know if you're in paratransit district, but I think it's like I think it's like,
Well, no, we're pretty much as far out as you can get from town.
okay, so they do have
So
a
that's
program. They do have a program so that you can reimburse your family members.
But they used to go all the way out to
Okay.
King City. They don't go all the way out to King City anymore.
They won't even go up the street and get Pat Haskin.
Oh no,
Yeah,
this is
that's
Monterey
Santa Cruz
County.
County. That's different.
Yeah, this is Monterey County. They would go to Salinas to King City, which City is pretty far.
Yeah, I don't know why you'd be going to King City, Elizabeth.
No, but I just know my driver was late picking me up from work one day, and that I asked them why. They're like, "Oh, we just came from King City." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, it's pretty rural out there. But anyway, Monterey has a great program. Santa Cruz is a little bit catching up with the time. All right, moving on to our next topic. You guys are not going to believe this, but we've been on time. Let's talk about being out in the community. I mean, this is a safety issue that has occurred. It's occurred for me for sure. But the question is, when you can't see faces and you're not sure if a person who's coming up to help you is safe or not, how do you handle that?
Yeah, I had an issue with that recently, and the guy was homeless, and it was not a safe situation. I tried handling it the best I could. I finally just went back in the store and got a lift home. I didn't want to wait for Cruz. So yeah, you have to be careful, especially if you're totally blind.
Bob Geyer just showed me, actually, I have one of those in my car. It's actually a pepper spray can.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so in one of the pockets of my vest that I mentioned before, there is a thing of a pepper spray. I've never had to use it, but it's nice. It's an extra security feeling that I've got something in case I would need it, but
You just gotta replace it now and then too, because sometimes it doesn't work, you know.
But as far as knowing whether somebody's safe or not, I don't know. I've not experienced that. I have had people come up and want to take charge, and I've had to firmly, thank them and say, I don't need any help right now, but thank you very much. And sometimes be a little insistent about that. But I've had really good experiences with people wanting to help or even asking if I needed help, and then good experiences with them. So I've not had a danger or safety situation come up.
Anyone else have thoughts?
Yeah, I get on town every now and then.
How would you know if somebody's behind you if you might not be able to hear them?
1 second, Rocco. John's saying something.
Yeah, I notice when I get on town on the mall, and for some reason, sometimes I get a bad vibe, and I do what I need to do and go home right away. But sometimes I get on there and it's like, there's a lot of mentally ill people down there. And that's what the biggest issue is for me, is that, I don't want to run into them. And so, but most of the time, I get on there, it's pretty mellow, but sometimes it isn't, and I really have to be aware that, especially if you're blind or vision impaired, that someone's not gonna do anything crazy. So I kind of always have to be aware of, 24/7, I'd say.
I think there's a couple of times when Elizabeth and I have been working together, and when I meet Elizabeth downtown at Trader Joe's or something, she accidentally meets a lovely friend, which is homeless, after she's bumped into them, and Elizabeth is queen of knowing how to get out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that I go to Trader Joe's downtown. I know I just wait inside because it's not safe to wait outside there.
Rocco, did you want to say something?
Oh, yeah, well, how would you know somebody's behind you, maybe, if maybe you can't necessarily always hear them. I mean, I know sometimes it can be difficult to hear footsteps and things like that.
John said that was a rough one. I had the same question. So I was given a monocular, and because I'm from the city, using a monocular doesn't feel safe to me. And my O&M instructor had said to me that, well, you would just use it. And I'm like, you don't understand. I'm from the city. You don't even leave your curtains open in a house because someone might look in. And so I ended up talking to Len saying, what do you do? Because I'm terrified to stand and make it really obvious to people that I am not seeing well. I'd much rather fake it and be dumb. Like, how can you show me where this is? So, you know, I'd rather do that than to stand there and try to sharpshoot with my monocular and, you know, feel like I have to hide in a corner and what if someone's watching me? And so I asked Len what he did, and he was very empathetic, which was really helpful to get some validation that that's a true fear. And he told me that someone followed him one day and he turned around and clocked them, but he clocked the air and the guy broke his cane. And he said that he's always going to think twice now about what to do. And I just remember, you know, just wondering how people do it.
Yeah, a few years back, I went to an NFB convention, and I wished I would have sat in on this. They had multiple sessions on self-defense. They actually had a self-defense instructor that worked with people to help you learn. I wish I would have taken advantage of that.
We used to offer one years ago, so maybe that's something to look into.
Yeah, David Champagne set up a class for us a long time ago.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. And that's, you know, here's a hard question. As I'm exploring public transportation, have done one bus trip downtown from Scotts Valley, downtown Santa Cruz, and we know we have a homeless situation down there. And so, you know, there's going to be a lot of opinions, but is it safe daytime with a white cane who doesn't see well to walk by yourself down there?
I think it's safe as long as you know which way you're going. You know, if you've done the lesson with Tiffany once or twice, and if like you get lost, for example, yeah, people are gonna see that you look vulnerable, and they will definitely take advantage of you.
Right. It's a body language you have to give that you're not afraid. And also, if you're feeling, you can also carry a whistle on you. And I have one on my keychain. I've never had to use it, but
and so just a plain whistle, or they're
yeah, a real loud one.
The kind that this is Susan, the kind teachers use on playgrounds. I mean, it'll shock somebody completely. I travel with a guide dog, and so the pepper spray is out of the question because I might hurt my dog.
Right.
But what you just said about the whistle, I think I will add that to my toolbox because that's a very good idea.
Yes,
Put your hands over the dog's ears.
Yeah, poor baby. You know,
and I think that you're less likely to be interrupted when you have the dog because we know that they're not aggressive, but other people don't know that.
It's true, Bevy. It's more true if you have a black dog than a light colored dog. I've noticed I've had two light colored and two dark. And for some reason, I hate to say this, but there's a fear of black dogs. And I remember being approached by somebody once when I was with my black lab Zeus, and the kind of a strange person said, "Does your dog bite?" And I said, "Well, it kind of depends on you." And he went away. My dog would not bite anybody, but you can't count on that kind of glibness, you know.
Right.
And for me, I tend to travel in the daytime. I like to be near buildings. If things are making me suspicious, I like to go inside. I'm sorry to say there are things I don't do because I just don't feel it's safe anymore.
And you
maybe it never was.
I'm just curious, what are some of the things you don't do?
I don't, well, okay, I do not, even though I live in a nice suburb, I don't walk around in the dark after about 10 o'clock at night, just because it's probably fine, but you know, I don't know, you know, and if I lived in a big city, and when I do walk, I carry a flashlight with me, I have light perception, and it just makes me feel better. But and if I'm you know, going to go out at night in a city, I like to be with other people, like friends, or you know, I mean, I just don't do it that much. They're just, I think that after hours, after 10 or 11 at night, and maybe earlier in the winter, is not the greatest thing to do. I also wear safety vests. I have this orange vest that one of my riding friends gave me, and I wear it because it's very visible at street corners and things like that. And if I tend to carry my folding cane even when I travel with my dog. If it's an unusual area, I want to do some experimental, you know, put down the harness handle and do a little exploration. And if you have a cane with reflective tape and you're at a corner and you're crossing with your dog, if you hold your cane out, you're more likely to be seen. Those are the kind of things I do. But I'm, you know, to say what I won't do, I just won't. I love walks, but and I'd love to walk around in the middle of the night because I just like the solitude, but I won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you wouldn't do that probably even if you're sighted, so.
No, not anymore. I don't think that is something we should do.
Gotcha. Question then, here's something that I'm curious about. So I know that Bank of America offers ATMs that are audible and you can plug an earplug in. But I always wonder how people feel safe when they go into the bank and get money and come back out with it. So anyone say something about that?
There's a security guard at the Bank of America on 41st, and I just usually put the money in an envelope, and I only get a certain amount of money, and I feel safe. But I'm not gonna go there at 8 or 9 o'clock. You know, 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. is a
So
good hour.
did you use the audible ATMs or do you go into the bank?
I've done both.
Has anyone else used the audible ATMs?
I don't know.
Yeah, I use it with the
Yeah.
Braille, the ATMs. But then, like, if I need a whole bunch of ones, if I used to take Cruz, you know, to work, I would need a whole bunch of ones. So I'd have to go inside the bank. So I've done both.
So not the audible, but you use the Braille. Is that correct?
I've put in that in my earbud, but I also use Braille. So
Oh,
I
I
use
see.
both.
Okay.
I've used both as well. I'm pretty comfortable again in the middle of the day. The one thing to remember is that it takes a little longer to use the audible prompts. And so it helps if you know your machine's prompts so that you can, once you know it, you can sometimes move faster or circumvent when, yeah, I know what I need to do next and that kind of thing. Because, and you can cover your screen and even make your screen invisible, but you just do want to be mindful of the fact that people could be watching you.
Yeah, this is John. And just to be clear, the Braille is actually static text. In other words, it doesn't tell you what the machine is actually doing. What the Braille
No.
does is it gives you instructions on basically how to get started. But in order to be able to use the ATM fully independently, you do have to have earbuds plugged in because it will tell you when to enter your PIN code. It will guide you through making your transactions and actually tell you the responses that the machine is displaying on the screen. And you don't get that in Braille because it's not a refreshable Braille display. It's actually just a Braille plaque that has basic instructions on it.
Right?
Do all
Right.
ATMs have that, John?
It shows
Not
the
all of them.
federal law.
Yeah, most if not all do, yes, these days.
Can you Bluetooth those, or is it just a jack? It's a 3.5-inch jack.
No, it's just a
It's a
it's a
jack.
3.5
Or
millimeter
3
jack. So you have to have a pair of earbuds with you.
They're the jack ones, right?
Yeah, 3.5.
3.5. Yeah.
And I honestly have to say, as a totally blind person myself, I will only use an ATM independently when I'm inside a bank. I don't want to be standing out on a street corner taking $300 cash out of an ATM when somebody could be standing 5 feet behind me and I don't even realize they're there.
Right.
I've done it just out of necessity. I mean, and you know, you do what you need to do and you cover your pad and you move as quickly as you can. That's, you know.
Yeah.
Does the bank let you practice at all? As
Yes.
you learn how to use it?
Yes. Yeah,
So,
they do. They have a way where they can where they can put the machine into sort of a learning mode, and you I think it allows you to do everything except actually have have it spit out money. But you can, when it's in that learning mode, you can you can practice entering PIN codes, and you can have it tell you what all the different prompts are and everything. So it is kind of nice.
Okay. And is there, I know B of A does it. Are there all the banks that do it? I mean, do you?
There's a
Chase,
Bank of the West near us that does it.
Yeah, Chase and
Yeah.
Wells
All the Wells
Fargo.
Fargo machines do
That's
it.
right. They do it too. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
not more standard.
Yeah, with me, I usually just go to the bank because I feel safer that way. I just go inside and they help you out. Like they have all the machines they have in there now. I belong to BMO. It's not called Bank of the West anymore.
Yeah, BMO.
It's called BMO. And I walk in, like I go downtown sometimes, and I walk in and find out how much I got or whatever. And all I have to do is just tap my card on the screen. The only thing that I can't do is because there's a lag time where the screen has to recognize, if you're ready to type the code or not. So they usually tell me, it's ready now, because I can't see the screen. Just type my code and everything looks fine. And I don't use the ATMs on the outside because I'm always afraid that
Yeah.
that someone's gonna be standing back there waiting,
Exactly.
I actually find that I can get cash from a teller a lot more quickly than I can a live teller inside the bank than I can messing with the ATM.
Right.
There's also something to be said for hello, how are you today? Just good old fashioned human interaction is very nice.
And what I like too is because I fold my money. I thought of that when we were talking earlier about the grocery store with Elizabeth saying that I so like it when I'm with a teller, she'll tell me, this is okay. So you have 20, 20, 25, 10, and 3 ones or whatever, And so before I even put that away, I fold them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very safe to do that at a teller window in a
Yes,
you're just fine. It's just take your time. Yeah.
I have one more question that's a little bit different. And I definitely need your guys' help for this answer. So if you guys are walking into a store like Safeway or Starbucks and you're in a long line, how do you advance yourself without smacking the person ahead of you? Now, dog users don't count because I think you guys are already, but I'm talking about cane users. How do you advance in line without smacking the person? Do you guys ask, will you please lead me forward? Do you just let your cane tap them? Do you just wait till the sound moves? How do you guys negotiate standing in line and moving forward as the line moves?
I wait sometimes I can hear the sound. Of course, I have a little bit of eyesight, but still I can hear the sound or sometimes the cashier will say, yeah, can I help the next person, kind of thing. And depending how far you are, like if the counter's here where you put all your stuff, that's when you know. You're sitting in line, but you can also put your stuff up there at the same time. And then when a person finally gets done, I can just usually tell, just keep moving up. That's the only way I can do it. Because I don't use my cane when I'm in line because it's so small. Plus I have somebody with me, I have a worker with me. But when I'm in it by myself, that's how I do it.
You don't always know with the dog either. Riley would often at Starbucks take me behind the counter.
Or up to the front of the line taking cuts. It's a wall. I'll just lead you around it, Mom.
I know a lot of times I'll say, blind people can be so rude sometimes. I'm sorry, I just got in front of you.
That's the time to drop the harness handle and maybe touch the person in front of you and say, hey, pardon me, can you just let me know when the line's moving up?
Exactly, Susan. That's what I would do too. Yep. Or usually a lot of people let you can move up now.
Yeah, usually
sometimes
people
will. In Trader Joe's. I went to Trader Joe's a couple times. Sometimes the way the counters are set up, sometimes they end up going behind the counter where the cashier is and I have to walk around. That happened to me a few times. Yeah.
So Roberta, we were sort of wondering, we were just talking about when you're standing in line at a coffee shop or at the grocery store, how do you advance in line? If you don't know who's ahead of you, like, do you ask? So I guess a couple of people saying, that people just ask the person ahead of them, can you tell me when the line's moved? Some people are hesitant to do that, so wondering what other people do.
So most of the time I will, yes, ask the person in front of me, or sometimes they're kind enough that the cashier will say, hey, you come to the front. I love that.
Oh, yeah,
I love
yeah.
that when they do that.
Yeah,
Honestly,
me
it's the
too.
best.
Special treatment.
Yeah, those are the best.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
whew,
me
you save me
too.
20 minutes of
People
waiting.
on the blind card.
But very, that's not always the case. Sometimes people will just say, come on here, come in between. But I've had moments where I do notice where people will cut in front of me.
Oh.
Ooh.
Oh.
I get it.
Yeah.
Well, we won't talk about it, but
You know, the part that makes me laugh is when I go to a store, especially orchard supply, it's very hard to get help over there. Of course, it's a different store now. First thing you go, well, we'll point over there, like I had somebody do that in CVS down here downtown. I was looking for some batteries, and she goes, just get on the street. And I had to put my cane in front of her face and go, hey, I can't see what you're pointing at, you know? So I run into some of that, a lot of that lately too,
I know someone has done where they do Be My Eyes and they make a Be My Eyes call. But I don't feel too good doing that, waiting there for who knows how long the line will be, 5-10 minutes. Just keeping the Be My Eyes volunteer on the call. But some people don't mind doing that, and sometimes the Be My Eyes volunteers don't mind that either. They don't mind waiting the call with you. And just
I find that most people are pretty darn helpful out there.
Yes.
They are.
Well, yeah.
And it seems like a lot of times it's more kind of like the person behind you who will say, you can move up now.
Yeah.
Because they want the line to
they
keep
do it
moving,
too.
so,
Yeah, right.
they're usually the ones who will.
Right.
And I do use my cane, and, I'll tap into people, and, I don't, personally, I'm not overly concerned about tapping somebody with my cane. I feel that's what my cane is there for. And
Right.
I'm not hitting people with it, but if I bump into them or tap their foot, I don't say sorry as much as I used to, but you just try to be polite and,
Right.
but don't be afraid to use your cane and navigate.
Right. When you're in a line, you're not going to be aggressively using your cane anyways.
Yeah.
You're just going to be
Right.
slowly trying to
Unless
figure
they
things
cut
out.
Well, I mean, that brings up a question. So we were looking for a bench one day, a public bench. And so your cane, I think we went on a little walk and I watched Holly tap a stranger and I let the bench talk to her. So Holly, do you want to talk about, like, the question was, how do you find a bench?
Well, yeah, that was funny. It's up by the Safeway Shopping Center here in Scotts Valley, Bev, and it was one of my landmarks as I learned the shopping center, and I knew that there was a bench across from something, and I found my bench, but instead of something hard, I felt something that didn't feel hard. It was a person's leg, and of course I was aghast. But he was very kind. I said, I'm so sorry. And he was wonderful about it.
Yeah, people do. I mean, that's why just like what Bob just said, that's why we have these canes. That's what they're meant for. And, I think most people are going to be very kind and gentle about that.
Exactly,
It's not like you just sent him to the hospital with a broken leg,
Right.
Although I will say, one time I was at a busy intersection at a crosswalk, and I was the first person standing right at the edge of the curb. And when the light changed, I moved out right away because I didn't want to get overrun by the crowd behind me. But a person behind me, a woman, actually kind of like ran past me and cut in front of me, and she tripped over my cane and fell.
Oh, no.
Right into the crosswalk, and everybody was more concerned about me than the other lady, because they recognized that, I was just innocently crossing the street and this happened to me.
That was that lady's own fault.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
it's like what happened to me down the mall one day. I'm walking down there and I forget where it was, but I was walking north end of the mall. And this woman, you know, my cane almost hit her and she got really mad. She goes, "Oh my God." It's like she thought it was a monster or something, you know?
But like Betty says, most people are really kind and
Yeah.
helpful and
99% of the time.
yes,
If we're
you
kind
should
to
have
them,
faith in
they're kind
humankind.
to us.
That's the 10% you gotta worry about.
Ollie, did you want to say something?
Yes, I wanted to circle back to Tiffany's question, please, about how do we find out if somebody's in a chair or on a bench? And I think that's such a good question. And something that I came up with, I'd love to hear your thoughts, is if I come up to where I know there's a bench, but I don't know if someone's there, if I talk to the bench and say, "Excuse me, is anyone sitting here? Or is this seat on this bench free? Or is this seat free?" Would that be a good way to do it? Or what do you guys think?
Well, I am going to be bringing in what's called the meta glasses. Some of you guys might have heard of it, but there's been much innovation inside of the meta glasses, helping with the visually impaired community. And it's supposed to be live interactions with video and feedback. So I am going to be talking about it on the 25th. If anyone wants to hear about it, from my personal experience, I will be playing with it for a few days. And then I will be talking about it on the 25th.
Sorry, 25th next month, just to clarify.
Yes,
In
25th
June.
next month.
And that's in our newsletter.
See,
Oh.
Yeah, I definitely want to know more about that.
Yes, me too. Is that going to be at Vista, Roberto?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Zoom opportunity?
I'm not sure if we're doing a Zoom, but we'll see if we can. We'll be kind of moving around the office.
Ah, okay, great, thank you.
I think the next thing that we need to do is, like I have trouble losing things sometimes, like my cane. Let's say I lost a couple of them already. They get expensive every time. And so, like a folding cane, you lay it down, either you got to relay it or you don't know where it is. I hear there's an app on the phone that you can get.
No,
Get down, get down. And I was kind of wondering about that.
Tiles, I haven't played with tiles, but I know that we can attach that with cane. And that can, your phone and your tile can find each other.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Does anyone have any tile experience?
That's the one I put on the
Look at here.
the sheet.
Yes.
It's like an AirTag, and that's the one I put on the sheets.
Okay.
Yeah, so we included it in some list that we have here going on.
Good.
Yeah, because that'd be good for me.
I did want to mention, and there was an article in this current month's newsletter. Lighthouse San Francisco, in June, pretty much the whole month of June, every Tuesday and Thursday, they have this listening course that they're teaching, and Holly and I both signed up for that, and it's online. And you know, you were talking earlier about your ears and listening and hearing and being able to get around and know where you are and navigate and stuff. And so I'm very interested in this class that they're offering at Lighthouse. So if you're interested, it's the details and where you email and stuff are in the newsletter.
Thank you, Bob. That's good.
And then John, to jump back to your question, yes, there is tiles, but there's also Envision AI, which is also trying to bring up that new tool.
Oh, wow.
Similar to what Meta's doing, but with the idea that it can kind of, while you take a picture of your cane and it'll save your cane into its memory. And then it will be able to, when you're saying, "Hey, Envision AI, I'm looking for my cane," it will be able to basically identify the object.
Wow,
So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a tool that's being put into the Envision AI.
Is that a pair of glasses or is that something on your phone or?
It can be the glasses or on your phone.
Is that just for Apple product, or is it, you know?
At the moment, they're mainly available on the Apple phones, iPhones.
Huh. Wow, that's something I'd be interested in.
I wonder if eventually the Seeing AI, or Be My AI, or the Ira AI, if those will be able to, if you'll be able to get more sophisticated and ask them a question, you know, can you find my cane? And they're scanning the video and looking for.
I know Be My Eyes did mention that they will be putting that out. They were trying to, at least by 2025, that's their goal.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty soon.
Yeah.
Wow.
We live in an exciting time.
That's for everything else too, like see, I have trouble not losing my keys.
You'll be asking those questions. Is someone on that bench?
Yeah, like my keys, sometimes I lose them, they're hard to find. Or, whatever, my wallet, so stuff like that.
That's a real good idea that Roberto just said. So Holly, back to your question about the bench. So if you just opened up your Be My AI and pointed it, towards the bench and took a picture, it would come back and tell you whether somebody was sitting there.
Oh, yeah, right.
That's why
I don't think
that's
the
why I
person
mentioned
sitting on that bench is gonna like that.
That's why I mentioned the meta. So the meta is supposed to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So meta, that's what I was circling back around is meta is supposed to be able to identify if there's humans standing on that or if there's someone blocking the staircase, or hey meta, how far is the staircase from me? Or hey meta, where's the door? Hey meta, where's the
But is that with their
staircase?
glasses?
Yeah, it's sort of.
That is for
origami-like.
glasses.
Okay.
It's what? Say that again?
Meta?
Is it sort of origami?
It is, but a lot affordable, much more affordable.
Oh, who's putting that
Oh.
up?
Facebook.
Oh, man.
Yes,
That
Meta.
makes sense.
Roberto, on the 25th, which I believe is a Tuesday, the time for your presentation, please?
And
10 o'clock. And the Lighthouse Language of Listening class is 10:30 to 12:30.
Oh.
And I have
Wait.
my groups support groups on Tuesdays.
Sounds like
Are
a
we-
change, Roberto.
Are we doing something here?
Or record it on Zoom so you can watch it.
We could swap the times around, Roberto. Maybe we could do the English one in the afternoon and the Spanish one.
we could do that too.
Would that be better?
We could do that, yeah. Because we also have another slot, I think
2
1
to 3.
2 to 3. Oh, yeah.
The other thing,
Can you just drop me notes? I changed it.
Yeah. Would that be better for people, you think, in the afternoon instead of the morning?
I would love to be there if the time could get changed, sure.
Is this in June?
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
AT meet and greet. We're gonna announce it in the newsletter, but since Roberto has joined us more permanently now, he's going to be doing a little presentation and Q&A sort of on tech AT at Vista Center. So not to take away from tips and tricks right now, but yeah, I'm happy to send out more information on that even ahead of the newsletter, but that information will be coming along shortly too.
so I hear there's an app now for translation. You know anything about that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
Google Translate,
Cool.
like seeing AI, it does that. I mean, there's other apps besides that one, but Google Translate does a pretty good job where it does audio translation or
Wow.
video translation. So if you have a document, you can put it in audio format and then you can share it with friends and family.
My God, does it speak 2-speed like you?
I was speaking fast, I don't take up the time. with tips and tricks.
I
No,
want
no,
to share.
In other words, I'm trying to find out if somebody's speaking Spanish to you and you have your phone up, could that be translated into English?
Yes, it can, and it's actually a good question, and it actually sort of fits in the tips and tricks conversation with O&M because we've had issues like Roberto and Holly have both experienced having drivers that don't speak the language or they speak with such heavy accents. Actually, I was going to mention with Holly's Uber rides, we've had issues with trying to indicate where her space number is, where she lives. And the driver doesn't speak the language. So if you actually use a feature in Uber to message that person, it will actually translate it to them and get to the Uber driver. And so of course, when the Uber driver arrived, Holly may have wanted to say a few things to the driver and that wasn't clear. And we also discussed what was it like to maybe use Google Translate. So that is a really strangely an O&M question as well. So yes, there is, Google does, I only know this as I tutor Spanish and Chinese, but there is a translate button where you can speak in English and it'll translate it and say it in Chinese and the person can respond back in Chinese and it'll translate it back, and every once in a while you lose the cloud, and when you lose access to the cloud then you don't understand what anyone says, but it is sort of a backup kind of way. It's not very fluid and it ruins the flow of conversation even if you don't understand each other, but it's possible.
One thing about Google Translate is that it will only translate one phrase at a time. It isn't very accurate when it comes to translating longer texts.
What kind of test? Sorry.
I didn't hear the last
So,
part.
can you repeat that last part? It's not very good at doing what, Rocco?
Google Translate, it will only do a good job of translating one phrase at a time, or one word at a time. It doesn't do a great job translating sentences when somebody's speaking.
It's
If you were to
improved.
put that in.
These last few months, we've been seeing like extremely improvements, and especially that they announced it March 14th. They've released a new update which is doing conversations, because they also released it on the Android systems and on the Samsung phones. And so if you have an Android system or even a Pixel phone, they're able to do it with the earbuds. And there's just so many. It's very wide diversity. It's a very heavy topic.
And is that only available on Android or Apple?
No, you can get it on an Apple too.
And what is the specific app?
It's a Google Translate. It's
Google
there,
Translate, okay.
yeah. Mine works really well.
It's improved so much.
I can speak a full Chinese sentence and it'll come out in English. I can do a whole English sentence. I can have a conversation with me back and forth.
Wow. So the thing I have trouble with is when I go to a store, especially got a lot of Hispanics, especially in the grocery store. And sometimes they're going to ask for help. I can't understand what they're talking about, you know. And that's a big frustration for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm getting at too.
Getting close to wrapping up because we've got about 13 minutes. I think I'll save a few minutes for Bob to talk about cane tips, but there was one thing I wanted to talk about with getting help from strangers. What I've noticed on some O&M trips, that when strangers come by, as an O&M, I just watch to see how you deal with it. And so the questions I have for people is, are people familiar with something called the Heinz maneuver? And
no,
that's a maneuver when when someone comes up and tries to cross you and grabs your arm. It's hard to explain it verbally, but you're basically stretching out the arm that you're being grabbed by above and over your head to release their grip. And then you use your other hand to take their hand off of your raised arm. And of course, you have to manage your cane in between, so you could get your cane and arms crossed. And I always have to try it 3 or 4 times to figure out, okay, how does this work again? But it's something that people should consider, because I know that when people are being friendly, there's a couple of things that happens. When people are being friendly and I watch how they're interacting with the student, I watch to see if that student is still keeping their orientation as the guide swifts them away from their orientation. And I'm also watching to see did you really want this person's help, or were you able to say no? And if you weren't able to say no, what are some things you can say and do? And if someone grabs you, because of course they really want to help you, so they're going to drag you by your shoulder that just had the ACL the operation on your shoulder. How do you get someone to stop pulling you? And sort of educating the public, nope, I am actually going to take your arm instead. Just for fun, I was on a median, I was being taught with blindfold, I was crossing 19th Avenue in San Francisco, and I was in the median because they were teaching median travel. Like, in other words, if you walk halfway through the boulevard and the light switches, then you stop in the middle of the median, the concrete area in between the lanes, and you have 3 lanes going one way, 3 lanes going another way. And how on earth do you restart your walk again? And all of a sudden I was dragged away across the street, and all of a sudden I realized, like, wait a minute, you're not my instructor. It was an old Chinese lady who felt sorry for me. So not it was very funny, like, hey, master teacher, show up, I'm crossing 19th Avenue with no vision. So anyway, it's something that I think people should think about their safety when they're out in public, that some maneuvers on how to remove unwanted help, or how to kindly keep away from folks you want, or if you do accept help, to think of ways so that the person who's helping is not interfering with your ability to stay independent.
Yeah.
And I know people who are helping don't understand that. Right.
I think what happened to me one time. This is funny. I don't know if you remember, I was up in Albany, it's like back in the 70s, and there's a store called Cap Whales. I don't remember.
Yeah, important.
Well, anyway, I guess I went over for some reason I went over there to look at something. And I asked this woman in there what a stairwell was, because I didn't know what stairs were. And next thing I know, I had one person, one woman each side of me take me upstairs like with arms. I kind of went along because it was kind of fun, you know.
I don't know if John has experienced this or what, actually either of the Johns or maybe even Roberto, but I've been in Nob Hill and I'll have a shopping list and I'm just kind of like, I got my cane and I'm just standing there. And every time some nice lady will come up and say, oh, can I help you? And, I'll say, oh, I'm looking for such and such, and they'll walk you to that aisle and, help you get that thing. And over again, they like, oh, what's next on your list? And, well, here, just give me your list. And then they just help me go around the store. I mean, it's just amazing how people will help.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is amazing. And there's one thing a couple of things that I would like to add to that too, is that first of all, if someone grabs a hold of me, I will not move.
Yeah.
And I take their hand, not aggressively or anything, but I take their hand off of mine and then I take their elbow. I mean, it's just a swift, easy deal, off and on. And let them know that I won't move. I just won't. It's not safe for me. And the other thing is that I was also OCB, John. The thing I really, really learned there that I think is so important is if someone comes up to you and says, can I help you? Not to be rude to that person, to say, oh, thank you very much, but I got it. Because if you're rude to them, then the next blind person that comes up behind you might need their help.
Yeah.
But they're never going to give help again because you were so rude to them. Oh, blind people are just rude, like all Marines are bad or whatever, because that's people's minds will think like that. So I think it's really important to be mindful about how we interact with the public out there.
That's funny, they had these two women, one of each side came up, grabbed a hold of my hand, all they had to do was pick me up off the floor and I would have just, it was kind of funny, it was kind of, I didn't get mad at that, I thought it was kind of hilarious,
I think I do this.
Two women come, one on each side of me, we'll take you upstairs, oh, okay.
I believe I do the same thing where I don't move. Usually if someone offers their, someone grabs me from the side and says, come, I'm like, oh, hold on. No, I usually do tell them to wait.
Yeah.
And let's get settled and let me first explain if you really do want to help me, do you even know where I'm trying to go? Because sometimes they think I'm trying to cross to the left, I'm trying to cross to the right, let's say crossing the street, right? Intersection.
Exactly.
And they'll take you to the wrong side to cross.
Right.
Or maybe they're not trying to take me to the wrong side to cross, but they're trying to get me to touch the button to press to cross, but I already have pressed the button. But either way, just little things that may be, misunderstood. But I tend not to move. I tend to stay still and try to first explain before, we proceed. And I don't mind the help here and there. Sometimes I'm like, let me just do it because. Or sometimes I'm like, I don't want to explain, just help me.
Well, I've had that happen. Another thing I have trouble with, and I still do sometimes when I'm crossing this, like when I was up in Albany, okay, there's a street called Solano, and it's a brick and all that. And they teach up there how to line yourself up with the traffic when you cross, like traffic's coming on your right, you line yourself up with the bumpers of the cars. Well, the problem is I kept veering off. And then the cars start backing up more. Yeah, that's the problem I had with a blindfold on. I lose my sense of direction. Not direction so much, but walking straight. I kind of go like this. You don't even know you're doing it.
Bob, before we go, before you hit your topic about canes, did you have something else?
No.
Do you want to take it from here about what kind of canes and cane tips you were thinking of bringing and?
Well, I know people have been on the O&M walks. I brought, a cane at a time or different tips at a time. I generally try to stay on top of the latest in those. And so if anybody ever wants to try, I have the Trekker cane, the all-terrain cane. That's a much heavier duty, stiffer cane. You can use it like a hiking pole. So I have that one now.
I want to try all of them.
Okay, I do the We Walk, Corey has got my We Walk cane, so I'm waiting to get that from him.
Do you have a no jab cane?
I do not have a no jab cane. I do have one of the, I call it the lightsaber cane. It's the solid cane that lights up from the inside with LEDs.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow.
And so that, the Sam from the Blind Life on his YouTube channel was talking about that, and he really enjoys using it when he travels because he'll go through the airport and he says it's just amazing. I just turn the button and turn those lights on, and the entire cane from the handle to the tip lights up, and it's like a lightsaber.
Wow.
And he says it's amazing the people that just get out of his way, you know, because they see it. Versus if he walks along with his normal cane, you know, some people pay attention and other people don't.
That is awesome.
And the one of the features that it has on that cane, so if you have the cane switched on and the lights on, and you can't tell whether the light's on or not, it has another little button that you just tap, and if the light is on, you'll get a haptic feeling back in your hand, you know, that lets you know that the light is on, and if you turn it off, then it won't vibrate. I have gosh, I wish I remembered all the names. I have the roller tip that has the actual multiple rollers on it so that it can glide in any direction. It's a really nice tip to be able to use it in just wherever you point your cane. I mean, it just glides right around in a circle and it moves really easy. The downside of it is it's noisy. It's a little less noisy than if you had like one of the 2-inch round balls on, you know, the standard tips that you can get here at Vista, those round balls.
Yeah.
Those tend to make a lot of chattering noise on asphalt, and this roller tip doesn't do that. And I've got my telescopic cane, like I say, that I always carry with me. So that if I ever need to, I can always just pull out the cane, and I've got
I didn't know they had those.
I've got it available.
I've heard of all of these, but I never got to feel them. So now we got to chat.
Yeah. No, I was going to bring them today, but I didn't think there was gonna be that many people in person here, and so it was like, well, if you can't use it and hold it and play with it, what was my point of putting them all in the lift vehicle and coming down with them? So
I didn't know they had telescopic canes like that.
yeah, no, you can get them on Amazon. And
no kidding.
There's a lot of interesting, I forget what's that one that looks like an S shape and you use it.
Oh,
it's like a didgeridoo or.
yeah, I
really do.
I do have the grass tip cane that you're talking about. And it's really clumsy to use. I did go out and, yeah, you
Figure S.
You do.
Kind of a figure S kind of motion. To
Yes.
get it to work.
But it's not as easy as you think going through the tall grass. That's where they sell it and say that it's supposed to be great for. And, you know, I spent a couple of hours playing with it, just trying to navigate with it. And it's easy to get off course. With that S motion, it's easy to not track straight.
There's also.
But I do have that, and I can bring that in.
Yeah, there's also frisbee disc.
I don't have one of those.
I got to try one.
I thought she had one of those.
I don't know. I've never seen her with that one. She's not online.
Oh.
The frisbee disc ones, there's porcelain ones. I like porcelain ones. They're sort of a nice in between metallic ones because you can hear a little bit better, but it snags a little bit less in the metal. But there are a gazillion tips to try. Do you have any other canes that you can think of?
Those are all the ones that I own. I mean, I have a whole bunch of different brands of folding canes, but
There have been a couple studies about the color of a cane. I don't know if you've read the statistics and the research on it, but the white cane, ours will stop most for. Colored canes, people don't stop as much for. So that's something, it's less visible. So that's something.
yeah, people tend to recognize the white cane as something for the blind. If you have one of the different color canes, and you know, if that's what you want to use because you feel secure in using a cane because it's part of your ensemble or whatever, that's great, but people tend to think of those as, or see those as more as a walking stick and not a white cane for the blind. Because
hi, this is Perla. Can I ask a question?
Yes, and so we'll take yours at the last question because we've hit 1 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Hey, Bob. So I walked the trail that runs along the freeway up to Lexington
Yes.
Reservoir from Los Gatos, and it has a lot of rocks and things that stick up. And I walk with friends and a baton, and I do use a cane, which is fairly useless on that. And I did trip on a rock and fell the other day. So I'm wondering if you have any recommendations on a cane for that. I have a ball cane. I don't like it. It just rolls over things.
Yeah, same thing here. It's the sighted guide that really helps. So in that situation, I'm using a hiking pole instead of my cane. And my wife also has a hiking pole, and it's, you know, got a metal tip on it. And she'll just tap on them. She's out in front of me. She could be 10, 15, 20 feet out in front of me. And she'll just tap on the rocks, and then I can identify where they are. And then you know, she'll often have to say, okay, this is really high, you know, you need to step up. This is a normal step size. This is a shallow step. I have navigated with that travel cane, the trekker cane, by myself in Henry Powell, going over roots and broken up asphalt. So
So what is the trekker cane? Where do you get that?
I can send you the link for it.
Okay, that'd be great.
It's also on Sam from the Blind Life's YouTube channel. He that's where I first saw it, and so I ordered it off of his website and got it.
Well, I got it.
It doesn't fold up as small either.
Perla, this is Tiffany. You may also consider trying a Frisbee. It's a disc. I forget called it's a disc. And what it does is if you hover on things, it sort of slides over. And it's basically, it sounds like a Frisbee is upside down.
Yeah.
And it's a little hollow, but it allows you to sort of let your cane rest on the surface, and you can feel the bumps a little bit differently.
They generally represent that as being more of a beach cane.
Yeah, sand and grass.
For going over sand and grass. Yeah,
Yeah.
not hiking on a trail with roots and rocks.
Well, I found the best thing for me, and I love them. I got trekking poles because sometimes I go hiking and backpacking, and they're really good. You can use those for canes too, especially if you're on a trail, and they keep you from falling down. If there's a hole, you stick your pole in there, and you don't have to worry about falling down. They saved my hide a few times.
Yeah.
And they're made by Black Diamond, of course. You know, I've got an REI, but they're black and red.
Yeah,
and they're adjustable too.
But Perla, I would it's that human guide that is extremely helpful on those country trails or rocky,
me too.
rocky terrains.
I got a friend I used to go with. I should go on every.
Yeah, I have a friend too, but you know, she got distracted, and it would be nice if I had a better cane than the one I'm working with. So
yeah,
those all sound interesting to work with.
I'll get together with you if you come over for one of our O&M walks. And you let me know. I'll make sure to bring all those in the car.
Okay, maybe I'll have to figure that one out. And the O&M walk is going to be on a Thursday again.
We're going to have to talk about that.
Perfect.
Tiffany and I. Well, I'd like to hear from the group. So Holly and I, unfortunately, are going to be in that hearing class with Lighthouse. So I wouldn't be attending the next O&M walk. So
let's change dates because I'm having trouble with that date too.
Okay, I'm open for changing the date.
So we'll get back to you, Perla.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, I want to close.
All right, and can you send me that Sam's whatever YouTube.
The Blind Life. The Blind Life is the name of the YouTube channel.
Oh, the Blind Life. Yeah, I have that. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Okay.
Sure.
So before we close out, Sophia, first of all, I want to say thank you for everyone for coming and supporting.
Thank you for your
Okay.
presentation, Tiffany.
Oh, you're welcome.
Wonderful. Mhm.
Sorry, and Sophia would like to do a follow-up.
Yeah. Thank you, John and Susan. We appreciate you joining in with us.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. And I want to say a shout out to our Tiffany. Tiff, you are doing such a great job. And
Yeah, thank you.
Learning so much and growing in confidence and skill. Thank you so much. And thank you to Vista for providing that training. So we appreciate you guys.
Yep.
Yes.
I
There we-
second that, Perla.